The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Gerald Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome into UFC Best Bets. You are looking at the San Diego shoreline, which will play host to UFC Fight Night this weekend, a killer main event between a former champion, arguably, I don't even think arguably, I'm just going to call him the greatest bantamweight of all time, Dominick Cruz, taking on Marlon Vera in a fight that I think both of these guys are up for. It's a big fight for the division, so an absolute fire main event. So I'm excited to talk to my partner in crime, Ian Parker, about the gambling aspect of this 135-pound fight. What do you think? Just opening thoughts on Dominick Cruz versus Vera, Ian.
You know, this is going to tell us a lot by where both guys really still stand in their career. You got Dominick Cruz, like you said, one of the best, if not the best, to do it in this weight class. And Cheeto finally getting his opportunity to shine in a 5-round main event, which he's done before. But against someone like Dominick Cruz, could be a huge feather in his cap to get closer to a title shot.
Oh, absolutely. This is a very, very big one for both of these guys. For Cheeto, it's an opportunity to get closer to a title shot. For Dominick Cruz, of course, the same. Also taking place in his hometown. He's lived in San Diego for quite some time, the majority of his MMA career. So before we get to this main event and the rest of the card, let's look back at UFC Fight Night last week. It was in the Apex. Ian, you threw a lot of bets out there. Tell us how you did in Las Vegas last week.
Well, look, we started off with Bruno Silva at plus odds. So that 3-2 is actually a much more profitable 3-2. Cody McKenna, you know what? She fought great. We had her by decision. She got the submission. Sometimes you just can't predict that. That Sergey Spivak, just right out the gate, was a nice win. Luque, you know, we talked about going over 1.5. I went with Luque. I am surprised that he didn't try to take the fight to the floor. Kudos to Jeff Neal. He looked incredible. And, man, we love going over 1.5 in these main events. And this one of all of them, people kind of questioned us a little bit, but we hit it, we cleared it, and then we hit the parlay. So we had a really, really solid showing yet again.
Yeah, I agree. Solid show. Always love to hit that parlay, especially at plus 193 odds. Okay, let's look at this main card. You can find it at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN and ESPN Plus. Again, the aforementioned main event. Such a good main event, man, between Marlon Vera and Dominick Cruz. Rest of the card, you're looking at Nate Landwehr taking on David Onama. You got a battle of the Yasmins here. That's an interesting strawweight fight. So we look forward to talking to you about that, Ian. Devin Clark taking on Azamat Murzakanov. Priscilla Cachoeira taking on Ariana Lipski. We were supposed to see this fight last week in Vegas. It got postponed to this week after a tough weight cut by Lipski. And then Bruno Silva looking to keep his momentum going. He did come off of a loss in his last fight, but that was against Alex Pereira. Otherwise, he has looked good in the UFC. He's taken on Gerald Meerschaert. Let's talk about the bread, the potatoes, everything, the bread and butter, the potatoes, the meat and potatoes. That's what I'm looking for. How are the phrases? Bread and butter, steak and potatoes of this UFC Fight Night. It is Dominick Cruz taking on Vera. I'm just going to open the floor to you, Ian, because I think this is a really fascinating fight. I have some thoughts and some questions specifically to dig into this line, but I want to just hear your opening thoughts first. What was the first things you were looking at when you were breaking down this matchup?
Well, you know what? I was curious to see how big of a favorite Vera would be because he looked absolutely incredible against Rob Font, who also has been looking very strong. And with Cheeto, the one thing that we always talk about with him is just he's a slow starter, but as the fight goes on, he gets better and better. And we always kind of joke when he's in a 3-round fight. It's like, man, this is a guy who just needs to be in a 5-round fight. Now, he's catching Dominick Cruz at a point in Dominick's career where it's interesting. You know, his last fight against Pedro Munoz, he got rocked in that first round and dropped. He almost got finished, and that's not something we're used to seeing out of Cruz. But then he bounces back and he wins that fight against someone in Pedro who is a top contender. So, you know, I'm very curious to see what Dominick Cruz's, plan is going to be this time because, you know, Cheeto's got good cardio. He's very well-rounded. He's active off his back. He's got the power, you know, and Cruz is known for that footwork. It's confusing. He throws from different angles, different speeds. He's really good at changing it up. But he also is a very strong wrestler. We've seen him use it time to time. And granted, Cheeto is active off his back. If I'm Dominick Cruz, that's what I'm thinking he's going to try to do. Wrestle early on, try to take away that power, take away that aggressive nature by putting Cheeto on his back. And if he could do that, maybe pull off the upset, you know. And for Cheeto, it's going to be, can't start off round one slow. Dominick Cruz will start quickly. For Cheeto, he's got to establish that dominance early. He's got to use his kicks. He's got to stay on his feet. I believe he is the better striker. We know he's excellent in the clinch, and Cruz is very hard to put away. So if he takes his time in a way, not too slow, but it's just more poised and methodical, I think he could get it done against Dominick Cruz. I just think it's Cheeto's time to shine.
Okay, so maybe you just answered my question there because you did a great job of breaking down the fight. And now, of course, we're going to get to your pick. And I totally agree with you that I think wrestling could be the one thing we want to keep an eye on here if you're looking at Dominick Cruz. I think, like you said, we know the guy's obviously very well-rounded. The cardio's there. So is Marlon Vera, though. I think the stand-up tends to favor Marlon Vera, and that's why you're seeing the line of where it's at. Dominick Cruz, during his heyday, during his prime, when he was winning these fights, a lot of times I think it was coming down to a very key takedown. This guy's wrestling has always been underrated, and it's kind of been there in those big moments when he's needed it most. What do we know, man? How are you trying to handicap whether or not his wrestling is going to be effective against Cheeto Vera? Because I look at this as one of those fights where you're going to see Dominick Cruz attempt to take him down, and if he doesn't get him down, and if he's not even close to getting him down, well, then you're going to be like, uh-oh, I'm real worried for Dominick Cruz here. So how effective do you think his wrestling is going to be?
It all depends. Dominick Cruz is a very high-level IQ fighter. He's very cerebral in how he just goes into fights. So he's not going to just have a plan B without having a plan A without having a plan B. So for me, if he can't get the wrestling, he's going to have to just stay on the outside. He's got to be in and out. He cannot fight in a phone booth against someone like Cheeto. And we know that Dominick is durable. Granted, he's been dropped. It doesn't mean he gets put away so easily. It takes a lot to do that. And Cheeto does not force it. He doesn't pour it on too early. It's usually a gradual process. So for me, I think this fight, although it may go the distance, I think it does go the distance. I think this is Cheeto Vera's fight to win. I'm going with Vera by decision.
Vera by decision. Okay. And you like that, as you just saw in that graphic there that our team is showing you, this is the longest odds of Dominick Cruz's career. Longest, biggest underdog he's been in his career. Do you think that is appropriate? Do you like the line where it's at? Yeah, I know you like Vera, but do you like where the line is at and the value that you're getting there?
You know what? I think the line is pretty correct. I think Cheeto's on the up and up, and I think Cruz is hanging around there, after that fight with Pedro. But we're seeing things that we're not used to with Dominick, like getting dropped, getting outstruck early on. And if he can't do that against Cheeto, I don't see where else he wins. And what Vera did to Rob Font was just nothing short of impeccable and just unbelievable. And I think Vera is just catching him at the right time.
Yeah. You want to keep an eye on those things as these guys start to get later into their careers. And yeah, Cheeto Vera coming off of, I thought, and I think everybody thinks the best performance of his career against Rob Font. All right, let's go to the co-main event, 145 pounds. You got David Onama, who is staying busy, man, 28-year-old from Uganda. He just fought a month ago as a massive favorite. This time he takes on Nate Landwehr. He's a big favorite again as well. Minus 330 for David Onama taking on Nate Landwehr. What do we think about this line, Ian?
You know what? The line's wide for a reason. Landwehr hasn't fought in a little while, and he's an aggressive striker who, for him, it's kill or be killed. He's willing to take two to deliver one. But what we saw with Onama, against Mason Jones, he took that fight on short notice, and he went the distance. Granted, he lost. It showed us something. It showed that toughness. It showed that power, speed. The second fight, he gets it done by knockout. In his last fight, he fought a very scrappy, talented fighter, and he got the win by submission. So now we're seeing all areas of this fight. And for Nate Landwehr, we've seen him in other fights where he's been submitted. We've seen him get outstruck. For Nate, he's got good cardio, so I don't think he's going to get tired. But I think if Onama puts him on his back, I think after that last fight, Onama said, all right, I'm not knocking out everybody so quickly, so let's go to the other part of my game that people don't expect. For Nate Landwehr, if he puts him on his back, I think Onama gets a submission, so I'm going to go Onama inside the distance on this one.
Yeah, I like that. Especially if you're going to take a guy as a big favorite like that, you would like to see him have multiple ways of winning a fight, and Onama has shown that already in his career. Okay, let's go to a kind of a curious one here. Not one that I was expecting to see on a main card, Ian, and that's a 115-pound fight between Yasmin Hardy from Mexico and Yasmin Lucindo from Brazil. It's kind of fun that they have the same name, spelled differently, of course. But Hardy is coming in 23 years old. She comes in from Combate. That's where she's fought the majority of her career. A lot of stoppages here. And then Lucindo, just 20 years old from Brazil. How did you research this fight, and then ultimately, what do you think of the line that they have out there? Hardy coming in at minus 200.
You know what? She has fought the better level of competition. She's getting finishes, and she's got a little bit more experience in a higher level promotion. And that's where I went with that. I watched her fights. I see how she fought, her style. She's very well-rounded. She's got great striking, and I think her opponent may be getting this one a little bit too much too soon. I know it's really hard to say that sometimes with a UFC debut. I think the line's a little wide, though, for two women in this weight class making that debut. So sometimes the best bet's the one you don't make. So I understand if you don't want to, but I would go with Yargri on this one. I just think that the striking will be too much.
Yeah, no, that's great advice, man. Sometimes, like he said, the best bet is the one you don't make. Take a little bit of information from these gals and then apply it to their next fights. Okay, let's go to 205. Devin Clark taking on Azamat Muzarkanov, who comes to us from Russia. He's coming from Contender Series. He's 11-0, and it's not surprising to see him as a favorite. Did you expect him to see him as a little bit of a bigger favorite? Or, Devin Clark, not the most impressive record in the UFC, 7-6, but he's got a lot of experience, obviously. He has pulled off a couple upsets in his career, but he's also gone against guys that he was supposed to lose to and lost to in pretty spectacular fashion. So I think we kind of know where the ceiling is on Devin Clark. Is his ceiling high enough to take out Muzarkanov here on Saturday?
You know what? I think it is. So we actually had Muzarkanov in his last fight, and he was losing that until he landed that flying knee. And on the Contender Series, we saw something in him. We've heard a lot about him outside the organization as well. He's a talented, overall well-rounded fighter. But when you take the fight to him, when you pressure him, we've seen his cardio kind of take a little bit of a dip later on. And with Devin Clark in that last fight against William Knight, we saw something different out of him in this weight class. I think not having to cut the weight really helped him. He's going to be the better wrestler here. I think Clark's got good enough striking. He's got good leg kicks. I think if he implements that wrestling early on, he is worth taking a flyer on as an underdog. So I'm going to go with Devin Clark here. I think the wrestling and the pace could be in his favor.
All right, I like it. Devin Clark is an underdog who, as I mentioned, he has cashed in that role before. Okay, let's go to an interesting one here, man, and it's an interesting circumstance. You got a 135-pound fight between Ariane Lipski and Priscilla Cachoeira. We're supposed to see this fight last week. Ariane Lipski misses weight. She misses weight by, I believe, 2.5 pounds. The fight was going last minute. She was not cleared medically to compete. So then they rebook it here, but they say, okay, we're going to move up to 135 pounds instead of 125 pounds where it was originally scheduled. When we talked about this fight last week, Ian, Lipski was minus 170, Cachoeira was plus 145. Now you're looking at Lipski minus 190, Cachoeira plus 160. And that to me is a little puzzling because you have this situation where you got to think it does not favor Lipski necessarily. She had trouble making weight. Her team, reportedly said that she had COVID during her camp, and that was potentially why she did not make. This is not a great situation for Lipski. However, does it help her that now the fight is taking place at a bigger weight class? Maybe, but I just don't understand how she can go from minus 170 to minus 190. I mean, to me, that just screams dog or pass to me. But you're the expert here. What do you think about this whole situation and then the line movement as well?
No, you know what? You hit it right there. We were on the dog last week, and now we're getting better odds, and I don't really understand it either. I don't know if they saw something in the last week. Did they catch Zombie Girl eating hamburgers and hot dogs the last week, and she's not going to make weight? I don't know. The Zombie Girl, for me, is someone that just doesn't go away so easily, and if she doesn't get submitted in the first round by Arna Lipski, I think her pace, I think her aggression, I think her striking is way better. I think this could be similar to the Gina Mazzani fight, where Mazzani took her down, out-grappled her, and then got tired, outstruck, and Zombie Girl got the win. I see that being very similar here. I think the weight situation will help Lipski. She doesn't have to cut it twice, but for me, and Brett, we've been doing this a while together, so you're starting to read my mind prior to even answering. Dog or pass for me, I'm going to go with Cachoeira here.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose it could help her a little bit, but I mean, Cachoeira's not cutting the weight either. And then after a tough weight cut in which she didn't make the weight and then she was not even medically cleared to compete, those are just red flags to me. And it wouldn't surprise me if Lipski actually does have to cut just a little bit of weight to make 135. I don't know how big this girl is, but for her to come in at 128.5 last time, who's to say she's not cutting a little bit of weight this week as well? So I just don't like the situation for Ariane Lipski. And since you were on Cachoeira already, I think Cachoeira is the play there. Okay, let's wrap up the main card in middleweight. Bruno Silva taking on Gerald Meerschaert. We've seen Gerald Meerschaert in this role before. He has done, well. He has been a darling, a little bit of an underdog. Most recently, he got it done as a big underdog against Makhamed Muradov. That was the last time he was a pretty big, sizable underdog. Look at that, plus 425. He got the job done 1 year ago. Taking on Bruno Silva, who's got a lot of power, a lot of finishes. Again, coming off of a loss to Alex Pereira, which I don't think any of us could hold too much against him. But I would say this guy is still a tiny bit unproven to be a minus 310 favorite. What say you, Ian, on this middleweight fight?
You know what? Look, I think there is a path to victory here for Gerald Meerschaert, and he should be watching the fight where Bruno Silva fought Andrew Sanchez. Sanchez clinched, grappled, wrestled, and Bruno Silva, who is a black belt in jiu-jitsu, did not look like one to me. He looked very just holding him down, hoping they would get stood up, wasn't going for submissions here. And Gerald is a very good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioner. He's a good wrestler. His stand-up isn't bad either, but he's taken a lot of damage. You know, the last fight that he lost to against Jaco was a decision, then 3 fights he won by submission here. Our bet is going to be that we're going to start round 2. I think GM3 knows what's at stake here. He can't keep playing this game of toughness. You know, there's a path here. Go in there and get past the ego and wrestle and steal these rounds from Bruno Silva, because he could win a boring decision, and that will still be an impressive win. I think that could possibly happen. I don't trust Bruno Silva yet. I don't love the fight IQ, so we're going to play it a little bit safer. I think GM3 weathers an early storm, and we're going to start round 2, and that's going to be our bet.
I like it, man. I'm sure the fans aren't going to love the strategy of like, hey, Gerald, Meerschaert, if you make this a really boring fight, then I think you can squeak out a decision. That's not what the fans usually like to hear, but as bettors, we got to be thinking about that stuff, and I completely agree with you. The speed discrepancy, you can't be standing up and in the pocket too much with Bruno Silva if you're Gerald Meerschaert here. Okay, that wraps up our main card. Let's move on to the prelims. You can find those at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific, and you can also find those on ESPN Plus and ESPN. The entire card is on Big ESPN this Saturday. Ian, take it away. Tell us what you're thinking about for the prelims this weekend.
We're going to start off with the Martin Buday fight. Fight does not go the distance. I do think Buday wins, but those odds are a little high for me. We'll discuss him a little bit later. I like Nina Nunes here as the underdog. You know, Calvillo's coming off 3 losses in a row. He's forgotten how to wrestle. If this fight stays on the feet, I think Nunes is the better striker. Gabriel Benitez, look, if you can get this prop closer to the fight inside the distance, if this prop shows, that's the way to go. Otherwise, parlay him, odds are very high. Ode Osborne, I think he gets it done over Tyson Nam. He's looked great. You just got to stay away from the power, use that grappling. I'm on Ode here. This fight is a little questionable for me. The Jason Witt, Josh Keelan fight. Keelan tested positive for something. It wasn't illegal through OSADA, but that athletic commission didn't allow it. You know, this could be a contender series fade. If we can get out of the first round, wrestle, just like he did against Barberena at plus 230, flyer there. And Yusuf Zalal, you know what? He's fighting a newcomer who's a submission guy. Zalal's got good submissions, fought better competition. I like Zalal there.
Yeah, I like those. Couple underdog picks there. And one prelim that you didn't see is a featured prelim between Lupe Godinez and Angela Hill. Angela Hill obviously staying real busy. Both of these ladies actually staying very, very busy in the Apex over the last couple years. What do we think of the featured prelim on ESPN and ESPN Plus, Ian?
You know what? I give credit to Angela Hill for not saying no to anyone, no matter the style, the time, the place, you know, but this is just not a good matchup for her. Lupe Godinez looked unbelievable in her last fight, and that's the type of fighter that you and I have been talking about for a long time. I think she's got a future to be a champ one day, potentially. All the well-rounded skills there, and if the way she fought in her last fight, if she does that exact same thing, use the striking to get to the wrestling, she will win this fight against Angela Hill. I like Lupe to win this one by decision.
All right, Lupe by decision there brings it down to minus 160. A little bit of a high odds there, minus 340, which makes me wonder, Ian, we're coming up to your parlay picks next, and I've been saying you've been hot with the parlays lately. Let's stay hot. What are we doing with the parlay at UFC Fight Night?
All right, we're going to start off with David Onama. I know we do have him inside the distance as one of our leans, but now just a money line. Martin Buday, the experience, the striking, and the grappling, I think, and he's taking on a newcomer. I like him there. We are going to go Gabriel Benitez. Granted, he lost his last fight. He is fighting someone who likes to stand and bang. Benitez is the better striker, more power. Do or die for him. And at those odds, I'm willing to roll the dice. And last but not least, Ode Osborne to beat Tyson Nam. As long as he doesn't get knocked out with one of those overhand rights, I think Ode gets it done. Now, Brett, last week we brought something into it. I'm bringing it back. We're going with the long shot parlay. Once again, we're going to go Devin Clark. We're going to go Zombie Girl, Priscilla Cochera. Nina Nunes, not just to win, but to win by decision. And that's going to give us some pretty strong odds there. I know you love those long shots.
I am. I'm a sucker for long shot odds, man. I'm a sucker for the long shot method, you know, the prop pick, and then now we're doing a long shot parlay. I love it. And let's be honest, guys. Let's just be real honest. We like to keep it real on this show. This card is not UFC 100. These are not as many storylines, not as many hot prospects that we're watching on this card. But we want to watch the main event, right? The main event is absolute fire. You've got a couple other great fights sprinkled in there, but it's not the strongest card. Loading up on a long shot parlay is a great way to keep your interest throughout and just make it a little bit more fun viewing on a Saturday. So without further ado, we got through the parlays, we got through the long shot parlay. Ian, tell me what we're doing for our best bets this weekend.
There's going to be some surprises here. I think people are going to be very interested with this one. So I am going to go Yosef Zalal in this one. I think that line should be a little bit higher based on level of competition alone. If this fight stays on the feet, I think he gets it done. I'm going again with another underdog in Nina Nunes. I just don't see Cynthia Calvillo winning. You know, she can if she wrestles, but Brett, she just doesn't do it anymore. I like Nina Nunes here. We're going Loopy by decision. I think Angela Hill's a fantastic fighter, very hard to finish. Loopy gets it done there. Back to Silva and GM3 to start round 2. I really feel like Gerald is going to wrestle here. I don't think he'll be able to get it done, but I think he'll be able to hold him down for that first round. And we are going to go Chito Vera by decision in that main event.
Yeah, some interesting plays there. 2 best bets at plus odds. You got to love that. And you got to love this main event. Dominick Cruz versus Chito Vera. Such an important fight for both guys. I expect it to be awesome stylistically. You know that they both come in shape. You know it's a hometown fight for Dominick Cruz. Cannot wait. Thank you, Ian Parker. And for myself, Brett Okamoto, thank you for watching and enjoy the fights this weekend.